ships are defecting. They don't know whether or not this is Gaddafi sending a message to basically Southern Europe saying stand back, stand off. Keep in mind, this is the smallest European Union nation. It's now becoming the most important European Union nation when it comes to the problems in Libya. This is the place where all of the European Union governments are trying to get their citizens out from. This is basically one giant airfield, this island, and that's what it's turning into, trying to get expatriates out. And now it seems, of course, people inside the Gaddafi family trying to get out to Malta.
Cal Perry live in Valletta in Malta. Thanks, Cal. And what Cal was telling us, just another incident, another piece of evidence suggesting that many Libyans are looking for refuge, not only in Malta, but also Greece, Turkey and Italy being other likely destinations. In fact, Italy's foreign minister has been speaking out on this. He's already said that he thinks the death toll from the unrest in Libya has already topped 1,000. Franco Frattini has also warned that the exodus of immigrants might reach biblical proportions.
We believe that the estimates about 1,000 are credible. We will have more information maybe from the international journalists that came in the area of Cyrenaic, in Benghazi area in Tobruk. But as far as I know from our embassy, the province of East Cyrenaic is lost.
Well, our correspondent Harry Smith is in Rome, and he says Italy is not the only European country that's concerned about immigration.
Well, what we've seen here in Rome today is a graphic example of the concern that not just the Mediterranean countries, but the whole of Europe has for the way that situations in North Africa are developing. We've had a crisis meeting of interior ministers from 6 of the countries who are most likely to be affected if there is any form of mass migration from Libya. Obviously, these interior ministers have been invited here by the Italians, but we also have the French, the Spanish, representatives from Malta, Cyprus and Greece. These are the countries who most fear any sort of mass migration if the situation in Libya degenerates any further. And they are discussing quite openly what will happen if Gaddafi falls. They're still not saying what will happen when Gaddafi falls because it's still a very fluid situation. No one on this side of the Mediterranean could quite predict how things are going to turn out, but they certainly want to be prepared for whatever they have to deal with.
Well, so far there has been some talk from the international community about Libya, but very little action to back up the words. The UN Security Council has condemned Libya's government and it's called for an immediate end to violence. The Arab League has barred Libya from attending any Arab League meetings until the crackdown stops. We've had no word so far from the African Union, but it is holding a meeting in Ethiopia. We're expecting a statement from them shortly. But we have had word from Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He's given his opinion about the events in Libya and he's condemned the use of force, urging leaders there to give in to the demands of their people.
It's hard to imagine there's a person who can kill his own people or bombard them. That's really ugly. I advise strongly that everyone should allow their people to talk and reply to their demands. They lead these people. How can a ruler bombard his own people and then say if anyone speaks out, I'll kill them? This is not acceptable. People should have freedom and decision-making powers in their own future. This is their right. I think everyone in the world is very shocked at what's happening in Libya. It's really bad. I think they should heed the demands of their people. But of course, as we know, anyone who doesn't respect the will of their people, well, their fate is written.
Well, with me on the set today, Ibrahim Shawqieh from the Brookings Doha Center. Thank you for being with us. Just a quick word on President Ahmadinejad there. When you have the president of Iran saying the violence is too much, you've got to pause for a minute, haven't you?
Yeah, true. It's with Iran. Actually, it's very interesting how the crisis has been interpreted by and perceived by the Iranian leaders, because it's being interpreted, to their own advantage and to their own benefit, and it's being interpreted as that the allies of the United States are the ones that they're losing and the ones that that's the price that you pay for being an ally of the United States. So it's very interesting how he is interpreting from their own perspective, but he doesn't look at the dictatorship form and the repression and freedom of speech that he shares with other countries as well.
I guess one thing that does set him apart is the fact that he's actually said something, which is more than you can say for President Obama, who still hasn't addressed this issue, and the US response and the UN response that we saw last night. You and I were speaking last night before
Yes.
the UN actually came out with its official response. Have you been disappointed by the tone that the international community in the West has taken to this?
I'm quite disappointed, really, with the position of the international community. However, I understand that where this is coming from, in particular for the United States. For the United States, we have to recognize that really the Obama administration or the U.S. does not have really a role, a way to pressure the Libyan leadership because they don't have any cards to
Perhaps
play.
not, but I mean,
Yes.
at least explicit condemnation.
Of course. Of
I
course.
mean, they can always do that, and they haven't done that either.
Of course,
And nor has the
yeah.
UN. I mean, the Security Council
Yeah.
statement that came out last night didn't go so far as to make anything particularly explicit, did it?
It's very disappointing, the United Nations and the Arab League as well, because both positions came way below under expectations. And I was a bit optimistic yesterday when we heard some talks about no-fly zone by some European members, and today also some French statements also, they called for some tangible measures to stop the violence in Libya. So we were a bit optimistic, but the position that the official position that came out finally became way below the expectations and too little, too late at this point, because this is I hope the international community realizes that this is a crisis that's different than Egypt and Tunisia, and Gaddafi might resort really to some drastic measures.
Well, I mean, in his speech last night, he did hint that he was going to resort to drastic measures, but we've seen nothing as yet. And what we're watching on the screen right now, if you take a look, are actually, for the first time, I think, live pictures from one of the major Libyan cities. These are from Tobruk. We're getting these pictures from AlJazeera Arabic. As you know, the media access to Libya has been very, very restricted. So it's interesting to see people out on the streets, a lot of activity going on, and no apparent activity by the security forces. But given the fact that we have had such limited access, what do you make of these pictures, and what do you make of the suggestion that that part of the country is now completely controlled by the protesters?
I think that he's losing control every 1 minute that the situation continues, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hear serious control of even the capital Tripoli, because just the very latest development that we hear even an hour ago, that Misrata is the city in the west, which is the first city to fall for the control of the demonstrators, and now Al-Gaddafi is being cornered, and I think tomorrow we will be talking about Tripoli.
Let's wait and see what happens tomorrow. Thanks for being with us for the moment, Ibrahim Shavia from the Brookings Doha Centre. You are watching Al Jazeera's coverage of events in Libya. We'll have some more on this with our interview with Nouri al-Masmari, who